songs. I want to become, we want to be better live, because ultimately, the more that we can be entertaining on stage and put on a show that people is engaging people, the more lives are changed. Because what happens today, in today's day and age, culture, all they have to do is pull out their phone, and they've got this thing that can do so many things that is wildly entertaining. And a lot of times better than most of the things that are on television or whatever. And that's what you're competing with. So literally after every show, we usually ask ourselves questions of, hey, here are a few thoughts, or what can we do to get better? And we also have a group of guys, of 5 guys that play with us on stage. And you'll be amazed at when, for Joel and I, if we have these discussions between us and with them, how all of a sudden it's an invitation to them to say, well I've noticed something. What about you say that quite differently? And I think when you have 7 people, really including my dad who manages this, 8 people that are constantly thinking about how can we get better? You're bound to stumble upon a few things every now and again, and that's kind of how we work with things.
It's obvious that there's a lot of talent just in your family, but I also know that talent is only half of the equation. There's people with a lot of talent that never actually do anything, and so I'm just curious as to what was it about your upbringing that really set you guys up to succeed and really sort of launched you out there to do what you're doing today?
Yeah, well said. There are a lot of incredibly gifted people out there, not only in music, just actors, everything in between. We were really fortunate, actually shared a little bit about it inside there, to grow up in a very musical family. Dad was a concert promoter in Australia, and we were always going, even back in the day, for you older generation here, Stryper, Amy Grant, Whiteheart, Carmen, the Italian Stallion. Dad would bring them over to Australia and do tours with them. And so we'd always have bands, and some of my first memories were looking at vinyl 45 records. And then fast forward to the United States, we got over here, and our older sister went by the name of Rebecca James, and she started performing. And we became the road crew, so stage managing, background vocals, lighting, you name it, we did it. And so that was a massive education. That was our 10,000 hours, no doubt. We were out there for years and doing long tours. But also, got to see firsthand the radical impact of music. And even with that sort of pedigree and backstory, Luke and I we came on the scene as King Country just a few years ago, but we've been collaborating for many years as brothers. And even inside that, there is just incredible amounts. I think but for both of us, we were sitting there wondering at points who was just going to give up, who was going to throw in the towel first, and we just kept at it. And my encouragement to people would be, man, if tonight says anything, it says persevere. Because Luke and I both know we're not the most gifted folks out there, but by the grace of God, through perseverance and through boldness, I believe that people can do things that they never imagined.
Amen.
Hey guys, of course, congratulations for your mini wins tonight. I do have 2 questions for you. The first one is a play on what she said, the young lady said. I know we talk about girls looking for their Prince Charming. What is your advice for men for that call to action and how to be a man of God, how to pursue a girl? Because a lot of times I think guys are just, I love you all. Sometimes you can be clueless from what I've learned from interviewing men over the years. And they've even admitted to me, well, I have no idea. Oh, well, I think these 2 guys might have some advice for you. And a second question, you all have been everywhere. I follow you on Instagram, and I'm constantly promoting you all and seeing where you're going. What TV show have you not been on? This is amazing. What is it like to have booked shows like the Today Show, etc.? I want to know about that.
Well, I'll start with the last question first, and you can answer the other. We have been very, very fortunate to, our goal and our belief is that music should be heard by everybody. We're in the Bible says, go and make disciples of all nations. So that means that we don't just play in the four walls of the church, even though we love doing that. But I think we have a responsibility to go outside of that a little bit as well. And so we've been fortunate enough to go on Jimmy Kimmel and The Tonight Show and some of these Today Show and some of these other things. And what's cool is we love putting those songs and ourselves with God at the center of it on display for them to hopefully say, One of my favorite quotes of all time is by Saint Francis of Assisi, and he says, "Preach the gospel, and if necessary, use words." And that's our goal, is to get out there in front of people, and hopefully they can see a difference. Hopefully then they can come and say, "Hey, I heard you guys were Christians, and that kind of wakes me out a little bit, but I like you guys. Tell me about that." And that's our hope with that.
Yeah. Well, speaking on behalf of men, there's so many layers to that question. I've forgotten who said it, but basically, with the breakdown of the family, the culture breaks down. And our dad manages us, and he was a great father. He was a strong father. His first priority was to love Mum well. And we saw that as young men, and now being married young men, we love our wives well. But it really was so much about what they did and what they modeled. My message to men would be probably pretty simple, and that would be the question of, what are you living for and who are you living for? If you're living for something greater than yourself, namely God, then all of these things, I believe, will be added onto you in time. Not through just sort of lazily, passively walking through life, but intentionally, boldly claiming it and stepping towards it. Someone talks about, in Paul's letter, the first letter to the Corinthians, love chapter, and the fruits of the Spirit. And often we divide them up. I think it was Timothy Keller said, "Hey, the fruits of the Spirit, that's one. If you are a man of God, study that. Patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. Those are the things to come back to. I don't want to sound sort of overly religious, but I do believe that the answer is a radical, on fire, dedicated, passionate relationship with God. Yes, thank you all very much. Great to see you all. Appreciate your gracious support.